In order for you to do a hard action, you have to have high motivation. If, for example, you wake up at 5:15 and your clothes aren't set up and you have to go find your clothes, maybe the car broke down and you have to walk to the gym, now it's a really hard action that you have to do, right? In order for you to do that, you have to have super high motivation. What's happening, fam? I am Coach Jay. I am here with
Coach Katie
and
Coach Wendy
and
Coach Rebecca.
And today we are going to talk about behavior change. Behavior change. So Rebecca was reminding us of a Saturday morning commercial that we had about learning about the government and brushing your teeth and stuff. Right?
Oh yeah, what was the name of that show?
It was.
I have them all on. I have a DVD of them.
Reading Rainbow?
No.
Oh, Magic School Bus.
No,
You can't just name shows.
those are all really good ones though.
Yeah.
And now this is gonna drive me crazy.
What is it? It was. I don't remember. If you know what it is, the conjunction junction thing, write it in.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, we'll get it. All right, let's talk about behavior because this is kind of what we do is change people's behavior. And I wrote up something really recently about behavior change because this is something we've been talking about for many years and how we sort of approach it and what we do kind of differently. And I thought it might be useful for us to kind of share that with folks because if you know how it works and you can kind of take a step back and look at what you're doing from the outside, it's much easier to change your behavior, right? So we talk about behavior change. What are some of the behaviors that we are often trying to change with folks when they come in?
Movement, being sedentary. We're trying to change sedentariness.
Sedentary to non-sedentary, okay? Why did you answer that like you were in a 5th grade quiz show? Being
It was like
she like buzzed in.
it felt like
and
a
she didn't know the
Jeopardy. Like,
answer.
what is sedentarianism? Sedentarity.
Because half of my brain is still trying to think of what that cartoon is.
Yeah, I know. It's fine.
What other besides sedentarianism? What other behaviors do we try to change?
Eat healthier foods.
Yep. What are some of the things that people say that they want to change, right? So we have our ideas of things that we want people to change for them to get to their goals. But what are the things that people say, behaviors that they say they want to change?
One, it's like being healthier, right?
Yeah.
But that just can mean like many things. Yeah, it's one that I hear a lot.
Be healthier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to be healthy.
What does that mean?
Yeah. What does that mean?
I want to be healthy.
What does that mean? Yeah.
Anti-sedentarianism.
That's exactly it.
Remember that time you learned the longest word in the English language? Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, it was probably from Schoolhouse Rock.
Schoolhouse Rock.
That's what it was.
Called.
Did you just like remember or did you just...
Google.
Oh, I was going to say, wow, that's so good.
I kept looking at my phone longingly, like, oh, look it up.
I don't think I could have gone on.
Super
without knowing
sneaky.
it. Yeah.
Is the word
Yeah.
anti-disestablishmentarianism?
Yes.
I don't know.
Is that the word?
Nailed it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do remember that, actually. I had to learn how to spell that. So we are always often trying to change people's behavior around nutrition, around training, even around sleep, right? And usually when people come in, they have some sort of goal. We try to help them achieve that goal. In order to achieve that goal, they have to change your behavior. And that's usually, if we have issues, that's usually where it falls apart. It's one thing to say, hey, I want to get in better shape. It's another thing to actually have to change what you eat for breakfast and dinner, right? and so, some of the most common things we see around changing behavior come around nutrition, right? It's usually pretty obvious whether someone shows up at the gym or doesn't. And so we're able to kind of get that going pretty quickly, but it's usually nutrition that is the hardest things to change. Why is that, do you think?
Well, when you ask what is a behavior that people want to change, one thing that people often say is like, I want to cook more food. And usually it comes from this like really heartfelt place, right? People be like, I want to cook more. And they get this like nostalgic look in their eyes, like, back in the day when I had more time, when I didn't have kids and I didn't have as many job responsibilities. It was like, I used to cook more and it was this wonderful time and I want to bring it back.
Yeah.
Right? So you're like, oh, okay, that really meant something to you more than just like being healthy. It was this whole like part of your life, and it was representative of this part of your life where like you had more ownership over your time. Interesting, right? Anyway, long story short, what'd you ask?
Why is it that it's hard?
Oh, why is it so hard to change? Oh, because as soon as people start actually trying to make more food, they bump up into all the reasons why they weren't.
Yeah.
And it's something that seems so simple and it's so easy to say and it's almost so obvious to say. Yeah, I just like want to cook more food.
Yeah.
What more, like what's it really gonna take? I already go to the store. All I have to do is like chop up some things and throw them in a pot. And it's like, actually, it's way harder for a lot of people than they think.
Yeah.
And it's once they start it, they realize exactly why, because they had this list that's a mile long of all the things that they could possibly spend their time doing. And their kids are on there, and the gym is on there, and reading that book that they didn't get to is on there, and writing that email, and there's always an infinite number of things. And oftentimes people will put other obligations or responsibilities for other people first. That's one thing that I've noticed.
Yeah.
And so it's like once all of that is checked off, then they do the thing for themselves, but never is all those things checked off.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons that I notice why people have a hard time doing the thing is because it's doing something for themselves and they're so used to doing the thing for their family or for their boss or for their client or for their XYZ.
Got it. So it almost makes them feel guilty. Like, oh, this is for me. I feel bad.
Right.
I need to do the thing for work.
Yeah.
I mean, how many clients do you have that are like, oh my gosh, like I make this beautiful meal for my kid for their lunch and then,
And then
I don't
they
do that
dump-
for myself.
Wow. I thought they dump it and get pizza instead or something. Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pizza day, so
Pizza day, yeah.
I'm gonna toss your
No, but people
scallops.
like make really beautiful things for their kids and then they don't do that for themselves.
Does that happen a lot?
Yes.
Yeah.
Huh. Wow.
Right?
We're,
It's like, what
we're
if you just
horrible
made
chefs
one
for our
other-
kids?
Yeah. I mean, I have a client who would do fresh tamales for their kids like the day of.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
But for their kids, and then they have nothing to eat, right, or whatever.
Wow.
I mean, not that they wouldn't eat it, but at that point, after doing all that work, they're just tired. They just want to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah.
Why wouldn't they just make extra ones for themselves?
Great question.
That's okay. Anyways, that's a different direction than I
Yeah.
was going to go with behavior change. But
Oh.
I have a question for you, actually. So this might require a little thinking. Are there any behaviors that you want to change about yourself? Right. So like, maybe, changing the way you do meal prep, or maybe, I mean, I have one. For me is just making sure that I write every day, right? So are there any behaviors that you are looking to change? Maybe it's not super high priority, but it's something that you've been thinking about for a while.
Yeah, I know for me it's been like earlier bedtime. Yeah, trying to get more sleep more regularly.
Yeah. For me, it would be like not working when I get home. So like not opening my laptop for those last emails or last messages, and then just spend time with Weston before he goes down.
Yeah,
So that's what I really want to work on.
got it.
Yeah, I think I go up and down putting my phone away when I go home and spending kind of present time with Sebastian. But then it'll sneak up again and I find myself back in old behaviors. So it's like I go back and forth.
Got it. Okay. Is the work, question for you, Wendy, is the work thing associated with you opening your phone or laptop?
Yeah,
as well?
or getting notifications, right? And then
Okay.
I tell myself to ignore it, but it's just like it's right there. So I can't ignore it.
Excellent. All right, this
Yeah.
is great. And then yours is getting to bed, and you have to get to bed at a certain time.
That's right.
Like, what time were you aiming for?
Like 9 o'clock.
Okay, so
Yeah.
be like in bed
That's right.
at 9 o'clock.
That's right.
Okay, this is great. Okay, so I'm going to go through the behavior model. It's made by a Stanford professor named B.J. Fogg. So B.J. Fogg, he's been professor there for, 20 years or something like that. And he taught a class on behavior change and habits and that kind of thing. And he wrote a book called Tiny Habits where you can learn all this stuff. But a couple of the folks that took his class took some of his ideas and then created Instagram, right? And so Instagram, one of the most addictive apps that you can open on your phone because of the way that it's organized. Like it has all the little notifications and things like that. It's very addictive and very habit forming based on what they show you, et cetera. And a lot of that came from this guy's class, right? So you can use these same like algorithms that are consuming your time to actually orchestrate better habits in your life, right? So if that doesn't get you interested, what would?
Definitely nothing.
All right, so I have a little, I wrote this out. So basically what he says is a behavior is made of motivation, action, and a prompt, right? So what that means is if you're trying to start a behavior or stop a behavior, there's you have to focus on the amount of motivation that it takes to do that behavior, the actual clarity of the action, is it easy or hard to do, right? And then something has to remind you, so that is the prompt. Does that make sense?
So,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. So, for example,
Yeah. So, for example, if I was going to go to the gym, right? I wanted to go to the gym, and I had decided I was going to go to the gym at 5:45 in the morning. So I have to get up at 5:15 in order to do that, right? So I need to have a prompt that would wake me up at 5:15. So what kind of prompt would you use?
An alarm clock.
Alarm.
Yes, you'd have an alarm clock that woke you up at 5:15, right? And then the behavior you want is to go to the gym, but there are things that happen before you go to the gym that ensure that you'll actually get to the gym, right? And so what are the things that you would do before you go to the gym?
Put on clothes.
Yep, so you put on your clothes. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's literally what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Put on your clothes, put on your shoes, right?
Unless you're at a gym in Florida, Anyway.
So you would put on your clothes, you put on your shoes, right? And then you would go get in the car. Now, if you put on your clothes, put on your shoes, and then get in the car, how much more motivation does it take for you to actually get to the gym?
Not much.
Right? Not a whole lot, right? So how much motivation does it take for you on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like super motivated, 1 being like, I don't care at all. How much motivation does it take for you to put on your clothes?
To come to the gym?
Yeah.
Depends on how cold it is and how warm my bed is.
Yeah, at 5:15 in the morning in the winter.
Okay, great.
8 out of 10.
So let's look at a scenario. Let's say it's a beautiful day. The sun is already up because it's like the longest day of the year. And, your clothes are right there next to you, right? How much motivation does it take for you to put on your clothes?
I'm out there because of the sun. Yeah.
So like
She doesn't even need clothes
2 or
because it's so warm out.
so it's like a 3 or 4 maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you still got to get up early.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
But you're doing it.
Yeah.
And now, okay, so let's take another scenario. Let's say it's the first time that you've ever done it. Like it's Monday, the first of the year, and you're planning on going to the gym at 5:45, and it's 5:15. That alarm goes off. How much motivation is it going to take for you to get out the door,
Oh, a lot.
or to get those clothes on? Actually,
A lot.
First time?
First time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
first
like
time.
pumped about it.
are you pumped?
If
How
it's
about-
my first time.
How about week 2? Let's say week 2.
Ooh,
Okay, yeah, week 2 is
week
like,
2.
Second week of January.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honeymoon's worn off.
yeah.
All right. How much? 1 to 10.
That's a 9.
9.
Yeah.
For me, it would be probably an 8.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, maybe my 9 is your 8.
So
We need a ranking scale.
So you would have to be fairly motivated.
That's right.
You'd have to be fairly motivated to get yourself up.
That's right.
And put those shoes on, right?
Yeah.
So now you've been to the gym for 3-4 straight months, right? You've been
Yeah.
going every day, 5 days a week or whatever to that same class. How much motivation does it take you then to get up at 5:15? 1 to 10.
I mean, going consistent, you said?
Yeah, you've been going 5 days a week for 3 months. How much motivation does it take?
Well, I feel like I'll be in a routine at that point, right? So
Definitely.
I'll be like, let's go. Yeah.
Yeah, so
ready to
you'd be
go.
like 2 or 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just what I
Yeah.
do.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
a normal thing now at this point.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So this chart here, I don't know if you can see this, but I'll try to show it here. But and I'll put a link to it. Can you see it?
Cute.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this chart shows motivation on one axis, action on the other axis, right? So when
Action
you
on the x-axis, motivation on the y-axis for those listening.
So if I'm the y-axis, I am.
Vertical.
Wow. I'm motivation.
show me
Really?
action.
Action is horizontal. There we go.
Okay.
But they can't see you in this. That's why I'm describing it.
Okay, so behavior equals motivation, action, and prompt. So you have to have a prompt, right? You have to have that alarm clock to get you in the game. If you have nothing to wake you up and you're not used to getting up at 5:15, you will not get up. Like you will just sleep right through it, right? Now, it may be that you already get up at 5:15 and you already have a routine of brushing your teeth, and maybe what you need to do is just, put on your shoes after you brush your teeth, right? In that case, the prompt would be brushing your teeth. Does that make sense? Yep. Okay, so the prompt gets you in here, and then when you get started, your motivation has to be pretty high for you to take that first action, right?
Yeah.
And the action is actually pretty hard, right? And that's part of the thing, is just like you putting on your shoes, even though it seems like a really simple thing, actually feels like a lot, right? Because
Actually takes longer too.
what?
Like, have you guys had one of those days where you're late, right? And you're getting dressed, but you getting dressed took like 20 minutes, and it usually takes like 5 minutes, but because you're late, it just takes longer, right? I feel like that's what happens too when there's no motivation, right? It's just like you're just slow. I don't know if it connects, but
I mean, wait till your kids are old enough to go to school. That will happen every fucking day.
I know.
Yeah.
Every day. Every day you're late, they take forever.
Oh my God.
Forever.
Sometimes Sebastian won't walk. Like, oh, he can't walk. I don't know how to walk. My jacket won't go on my arms.
Yeah. Tycho will just walk out in his underwear. It's just like 8:05. It's like, dude, we needed to be out the door.
And then they have the audacity to get mad for being late.
Wow.
So do you think they don't have no motivation for that, right?
kids.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so here's the deal, right? So
This is why mom doesn't make food for herself and only her kid, because as soon as she makes food for that kid, she's yelling at her to put their jacket on because they're late.
You know what would get that kid high motivation?
What?
You starve that motherfucker. Don't make any food for him, and then he will be on time for everything.
Cut that out.
That's why I'm not a mom.
That's why.
That's the reason.
That's the reason.
That's the problem.
specific reason.
We're talking about menstruation next week, so we'll get to that. There's an anatomy lesson for you too. Okay.
So here we've got the action, right? And it goes from easy to hard, right? So easy action is over here, hard action is over here, right? And so if the thing is really hard, then it's, actually I got that wrong. Let me back that up. Yes, it should be the other way. It should be hard to easy. Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. So if it's easy, right, then it's on this side. If it's hard, then it's on this side. And what happens is, in order for you to do a hard action, you have to have high motivation. So if, for example, you wake up at 5:15 and your clothes aren't set up, and you have to go find your clothes and then go, maybe the car broke down and you have to walk to the gym. Now it's a really hard action that you have to do, right? In order for you to do that, you have to have super high motivation. And, for a lot of people, when they're starting a new behavior, the action is actually really hard. If you tell someone to like food prep, right? What does that even mean? Like, what food should I make? What food should I buy? How do I make it? What are the recipes? Where should I store it? Like, when should I do it? All these different things. Like, it's really, really hard to do that, right? Whereas if I say, well, go buy this pre-made food, right, and have it delivered to you, well, now it doesn't take as much. The action is a little bit easier, so it doesn't take as much motivation to do it. Assuming you have the money to buy that stuff, then all of a sudden it goes from being a super hard action that takes high motivation here to maybe an easier action that only takes a little bit of motivation here. Does that make sense? So why is this important? Well, take this idea of writing every day, right? So I've been wanting to write every day. I've had periods where I wrote a ton every day, and then periods where I haven't written for a long time. And so at one point I was writing like 1,000 to 1,200 words every day, which is like a lot. Like, it's writing for an hour, maybe an hour and a half if you're lollygagging or whatever. And when I sat down and said, okay, I want to write again, I had this reference point in my head of like, I used to write 1,000 words a day,
Yeah.
right? And so I'm going to go and write 1,000 words per day. And the first day I did that, it took me like 3 hours. And so it was like really hard action that takes super high motivation. Now, how many days in a row do you think that I was able to do that?
one day.
Yeah.
One day in a row.
Yeah, I mean, it was less than 10 days, right? I don't remember when I actually stopped, but it was just like less than 10 days because it took so much motivation because the action was so hard that there was no way I was going to sustain that,
Yeah.
right? Now, what if I said I was only going to write 100 words a day, right? Now, all of a sudden, the action is a lot easier, right? It's on this side, so it only takes a little bit of motivation.
Yeah.
And even if I'm feeling sick or I'm on vacation or I went to a freaking 14-hour concert, I can still write 100 words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And it doesn't take that much effort, right? And I think what happens when people try to change behavior is they look at the ideal behavior as, hey, I need to start with that. I need to do a full meal prep, right? I need to have perfect eating. I need to get to the gym 7 days a week, and I need to do all of the sets and reps and do everything my coach tells me,
Yeah.
right? That's hard. Like if you've never done that before, like your motivation level has to be super high. And what do we know about motivation? It's fleeting, right?
Yep. Fickle.
Yeah, it does not stick around, right? So, for me, what happened was I was writing every day for 10 days. Then I went on vacation, kept it going for a couple of days, and then I slept in a couple of days. My routine got off, and it's just like now I don't have the motivation to continue that habit because the habit was too hard.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So what questions do you have about this? Does it kind of make sense to you?
Yes, it does. I have a question. So what happens if that little tiny, I wouldn't say tiny habit, but that, I guess,
The Tiny Habits Perfect. That's what the book is called.
okay.
Tiny Habits.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what if that tiny habit is still not working?
So that is one of the things that you have to recognize here. So let's say that you do a tiny habit, right? So let's say I just write 100 words a day,
Yeah.
right? And I do that for 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, right? Well, I've only actually written 3,000 words in 30 days. So a book is like, what, 300,000 words? If I wanted to write a book, it's going to take me a long time to do that, right? So I'm not actually making that much progress on the book,
Yeah.
right? But I still did the thing for 30 straight days.
Okay.
Right? So what you're developing here is not a habit that is going to get you the outcome. What you're developing is the character traits of somebody that gets the outcome. Does that make sense? So if I write every day for 30 days, even if it's 100 words, I am now a writer. I start seeing myself as a writer. And what happens when you do it, are you following me here?
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
the question, though, and like what I see with clients too, is like, okay, you make it as easy as humanly possible, and then
Wait,
it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Okay. You're saying if they don't do it.
That's right. So
Ah.
you give yourself write 6 words a
Yeah,
day,
yeah.
and then it doesn't happen, and then a week goes by.
So,
It
okay,
doesn't happen.
great. Okay, so there's two ways we can go here. Let's address that first.
Right.
First question I'd ask is, do you have something to remind you to do it?
Yes.
Okay, what is it?
An alarm or whatever.
Okay, so
Yep.
so when the alarm goes off, what do you do?
Snooze.
Snooze.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So what are you doing when that alarm goes off?
Trying to get my kid out the door.
Yeah, okay. So the alarm does not go off at a time that's convenient for you.
No.
I guess not. No.
Yeah. So what's happening here is that the time that it goes off, the action is actually, it takes higher motivation. The action's harder to do because you're doing it in the middle of all this other stuff,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So how could you?
Can't
How
think
could
of
you?
a time when it
Okay.
would be better.
How would you fix that?
I can't think of a time when it would be better.
Yeah.
I don't know what my schedule is. I don't know when I'll be with my kid.
I'm too tired because I worked up until 3 a.m. last night.
Great. Why are you here?
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is the thing.
Yeah.
Like, this is it. Like,
Yeah.
if your motivation is not high enough to even spend a moment thinking about how to improve it,
Yeah.
then you're not going to get there.
So, and I think like this is where like I love this model and it's super useful, and like there are certain things you can't even tiny tweak your way out of. Like I notice this with a lot of clients. It's like
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. When you say the word can't, my first question is,
yeah,
okay, you can do whatever you want.
Totally.
You choose other things besides the thing you said
That's right.
was most important.
that's right.
Right? So this idea of I can't do it is absolute bullshit.
Right.
It's just you've chosen something else.
Yes.
And so my question is, why are you here if you're going to continue choosing something else?
that's right.
Does that make sense?
That's right.
Yeah. And that's fine. You might have decided that actually cooking tamales for my kid every night is more important than me getting in better shape.
Yeah.
Let's recognize that. Let's embrace it. And let's just have you move forward with that. Right? Now, the truth is that's probably not true. And that's something I would question. But like, I'm asking you to spend 5 minutes figuring out how to design your life in a way that helps you reach your goals without jamming up the rest of your life. Does that make sense or no?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I mean to shut you off. When you use that word, I'm just like, I'm triggered by that.
Yes. I think what I notice, and I'm curious for you too, is some people do really well with easy tasks and they can knock them out. And then they are motivated by seeing a result. And then it starts to snowball and they're ready to do the thing that's harder. And some people get stuck with the easy task exactly for the reason why they're here, right? Like they get stuck because they don't orient their time in a way to like make the thing happen. It's the exact reason why they've been stuck for so long, and it's why they end up here.
Great. So then we have to make the task easier. Because part of the deal here, and this is what I was getting to before, is if you start with something really easy, right? So let's say that what you tell a client is, I need you to take fish oil in the morning.
Totally.
And it's so super easy, right? You have it in your car while you're driving to the thing, and when you drink your coffee, you put fish oil in your mouth.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Right? So you do that on day 1, right? And it takes, it's a pretty easy action. It takes some motivation to do it because you have to put it in your car, et cetera, et cetera. And then you do it on day 2. It goes to here, right? And then you do it on day 3. And then it goes to here. And then you do it on day 4. And then it goes to here. It's like super easy, right? You have made it easier and easier and easier, right? Are you with me?
Yes.
You were very skeptical. The look
yes,
on your face
yes.
is just like, there's no way this is going to work.
I'm going to describe it for those who are just listening. Katie, her eyes slowly start to narrow as the more Jay speaks.
Yeah.
She's nodding just because she thinks that's what she should do. But there is something there. There is a question or
Because
a
at a
point to
certain
be
point,
made.
you're like, okay, if all I do is eat one thing of fish oil, like it's so far away from where I actually want to be that I'm at that point I'm just like, fuck it.
This is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted to get to.
But it sounds like the motivation will be boop, gone.
No, you guys are
For those of you who are only listening, Jay flails his hands in exasperation.
Yeah. So there's an underlying assumption here. If all you care about is the outcome and you need it now, this is not going to work. If you are in it for the long term and wanting to build long-term habits, there's only 2 ways that you're actually going to make change. This is something he talks about in the book. There's only 2 ways that people make change. One, they either have some sort of dramatic life change, right? So they move, or something changes, they get divorced, whatever, right? The 2 is they start so small that they build habits over time.
Yes.
And the idea here is, if you can get through your head that you're going to start small and build habits over time, then every day you take this fish oil, you are developing the habits that are going to get you to the point where you're eating healthy overall and you're going to the gym and you're doing all these things. But you have to understand that going in, that the framing is, you're starting with this super small thing, and we need you to do that every single day. And every day you do it, you celebrate, yes. I did this thing, right? And so once you do that, now you're here, right? Fish oil, super easy. Great, let's do something harder, right? So let's eat a better breakfast, because now it doesn't take as much motivation for you to do something harder.
Yeah.
So then you go back here, right? And you take that fish oil habit, and it's like, every time I have fish oil, I will now also have a healthier breakfast.
Yes.
Right? Instead of packing that in your car, you pack a tin foil full of egg bites or whatever, right? Right? And
Dang.
Wow.
Bust her out.
What?
She's being resourceful, okay?
Not wrong.
Yeah.
That's right, though.
That's right.
Here's the thing. Like, I think so much of this, and this is one of the big premises of the book, and I highly recommend you read it, is people change by feeling good, not by feeling bad.
That's right. However,
All right.
I want to
the
hear this.
however.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, like I completely agree with you, and like what you said before that, which is people change also by making big changes in their lives. Sometimes we arrive at places as coaches where it's like my role is to point out to you that maybe there is a bigger change that might get you the thing that you want, and we can continue on this path of tiny things, and it's your choice. The framework that I learned is like there are tiny tweaks. Like your tiny habits, little things that you can adjust that move you close to the thing that you want. And there's, for almost everyone, there is a big kahuna. And the big kahuna is the thing that you would change that would have the biggest, most dramatic impact on your life, but it is way harder to change. Mm-hmm. And so as a coach, I'm looking at someone who has tried to do the tiny habit over and over and over and over. And finally, it's my time to like shine a light on this big kahuna thing that like maybe they want to change. I have zero agenda. But I want to make sure that they recognize that they have a choice.
But how does that not fit in here?
This is all mad tiny. This is all about making things tiny. And part of what I'm saying is like, it's great to make things tiny. And like at a certain point, it doesn't matter how many fish oil pills you pop and how many things. If you're in an unhealthy relationship, it's like, it's not going to work out for you.
So it sounds like what you're addressing here is that there are bigger behaviors that need to be changed in order for there to be an outcome. And
if you are working with a boss who's like, you've set all your boundaries and you've done all your things, but they're like abusive, you know? They just keep coming after you for your tinfoil sandwiches.
She's not referring to us. Katie, blink
then it's
twice.
Like, okay, we can keep tiny tweaking. we can do our like mental, we can cope with the things. We can like do our little tiny tweaks and all the things. But eventually, you just got to quit your job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not discounting that is a thing
Great,
that people
that's
need.
All.
But what I'm talking about is not like, hey, quit your job, divorce your husband. That's the first thing you need to do. Like what I'm talking about is like, hey, I want to get in shape. I'm gonna go do keto, and it's like you've been eating standard American diet for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Like doing keto is a huge step.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like it's unlikely you're gonna sustain that given your previous environment if you go all in on day one.
Yeah.
Right? And so what I'm talking about is long-term behavior change. And really that comes from starting small and moving. For you, starting small, if you changed your diet, would be to add 50 grams of protein to what you're eating.
Right.
That's really small for you.
Right.
Right? But for a lot of people, it's like 50 grams, I don't even know what protein is.
Yeah.
Right? And so that would be a huge change for them.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think if we're talking about some of the changes that you all mentioned, it's like, I want to get to bed earlier. I want to stop picking up my phone at night. Right? It's like, okay, well, you could throw your phone out. Right? That's one way to do it. And it's likely that you're going to have another phone in 6 months, right? Because you'll see all the benefits of having it, right? You could, I don't know what you could do, shut your electricity down at 8:30,
Right.
Right? I mean, you could do something like that, but it's likely that you're going to want it sometime after 8:30,
Right?
Right? So
Especially in the winter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like, I think what you're describing is actually the minority of cases, right? I don't think people need to make huge changes. Some people do, for sure. Right?
I think too, like also there's a middle ground too, right?
Wow. For those of you listening, there seems to be a standoff in the corner. If I had popcorn, I'd be putting it in my mouth.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, right? Like, let's say that work or your boss is what's stopping you from coming into the gym, eating better, right? Because you're working long hours.
Yeah.
Like you know that you're supposed to work less in order to prioritize yourself, right? What is a tiny habit you would have them do, right? Is there?
I mean,
because I just don't see a tiny habit would actually do anything to that case.
Okay. So I will say this. Whenever I'm thinking about something that I want to achieve, I always look at what are the one-time actions I can take that would make everything else easier.
Yeah.
Right? So a great example would be if I clean out all the junk food in my kitchen, then I'm less likely to eat junk food. Right? Like that is a one-time action that I could take that would make everything else easier.
Yeah.
Right? If I quit that horrible job, then I would have more time to work, or to go do a workout. Presuming you have a better job that doesn't require that much time. The truth is, I don't know if this is the case. I don't know who we're talking about here, but quitting that horrible job might just mean that you get another job where you're working just as much, right? Because this is a habit that you've repeated over and over again,
Yep.
right? Or maybe quitting that horrible relationship, you get out of one, go into another one. That's just as horrible, right? So now we need to start thinking about, well, what are the things that are causing this situation for you, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm a huge fan of making one-time actions. Quitting that job, cleaning out your kitchen, moving to a different place, whatever, getting rid of your car, getting a bike. I'm a huge fan of that stuff. But that's not going to solve all the problems, right? For example, eating, you are going to eat every day. So how do you develop eating habits that serve you versus not serve you? In terms of turning your phone off, you're going to have your phone. So how do you develop habits that serve you versus the ones that don't serve you?
Yeah.
Right? And that's what I'm talking about here. Because once you've done all the one-time actions, great. Like, now what? You still have your phone. You still have to eat. You still have a relationship. So now what do? What are the tiny habits that you can do? That's what I'm talking about.
So maybe the tiny action equivalent there is like put a boundary around your lunchtime. Which is maybe a huge...
Yeah, it's huge for
that
a lot
would
of
be
people.
huge for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Pick one day and put a boundary around your lunchtime. I have one person right now, like, having a crucial conversation with their husband about having one night a week where they can do the thing that they want to do. Great. Maybe that's the tiny habit.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting into a realm, though, where you're dealing with interpersonal relationships, and those are not necessarily, like, those are harder to change. Like, when I asked you all what are the habits that you want to do, they had nothing to do with
Except that they
interpersonal
do.
relationships.
They 100% do. So if I want to go to sleep earlier, that means I'm spending less time over at my sister's watching my baby nephew. Okay, so I have to say no to that if I want to prioritize my time at night. It has everything to do with relationships. Well, at least it could.
Yeah.
If I want to make my lunch every day, then I have to tell my boss that I need 10 more minutes to chop up my veggies to make my salad. And I'm afraid to do that.
Yeah.
I'm. How often do you go over and see your nephew? Is that every day?
No.
So it's what, once a week?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So once a week, you take a day off.
Right.
Is that one day a week causing you not to sleep?
Yes.
Was that last night? Is that why you're so salty?
I'm just saying, like, yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it's not part of it. What I'm saying is most people's challenges, right, have to do with the habits that they have developed themselves, right? The environment, the other people support them in these habits that are not serving them, but they don't cause them, right? And before you tell me that's not true, we have many examples of people that do what they need to do despite their interpersonal relationships.
100%.
Right?
Okay, so I feel like there is a whole another discussion, some of it around talking to your environment, as Wendy would say. So there's one thing. But going back to where Jay is coming from, the takeaway I'm getting is that consistency beats motivation in the end. Like, we need to be, once you develop that habit over time, you'll be consistent. You can't rely on motivation to get you to the result that you need.
Yeah.
And it's what some people tend to do is find the, exciting fix, like, okay, I need to lose weight. I'm going to go keto, cabbage cleanse, and do all the things. And then it doesn't work. What happened? Where the answer is really making small, tiny habit changes that allows them to remain consistent for the rest of their life. Yep. So that was my takeaway. Now, there are other things involved, And this actually reminds me of a call I had this morning with someone who's going to be starting with us. And, he admits he hasn't been working out. He has an active job, but, he hasn't been lifting or doing whatever. And he's already ready to come in like 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And so, I'm telling him, let's just wait 2 weeks, reassess. I'm not saying you're not capable, but in his mind, he's going from 0 to 60 because that's what he needs to do. But really what I know he needs to do is just get into the habit of blocking off time because his work is keeping him from doing this.
Yeah.
So let's just schedule it in your calendar, block it off, start there, and maybe we'll do more in the end. So
Yeah. So, that's a really great example because a lot of people say that when they come in. They're like, I'm going to just do it all.
Yeah.
Just tell me what to do. I will do exactly what you tell me to do. And then we do it. And then what happens?
And they drop off.
Yeah.
Doesn't work out.
And then they feel a lot
Bad.
of shame
Yeah.
about the fact that they didn't do the thing they said they were going to do on day one. Mm-hmm. And so what do you say when people say that at the beginning? I mean, so you had that situation
Oh, it was
today. It's
great.
just like-
Well, former athletes are, generally the ones who are ready to go all in,
Yeah.
full speed. They are also the ones who tend to quit first.
Yeah.
Because they're comparing themselves to this person they were 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, they'll even say like, yeah, I used to work out for 3 hours. I'm just doing an hour of training. And it's like, okay, that was 20 years ago. I've found myself doing that too. And so it's really trying to ignore that voice that's telling you you're not enough. So, I mean, I was straight up. I said like, those who come from a background where they did nothing tend to be more successful because they have zero expectations.
Yeah.
They're just happy to move.
Yeah.
So your challenge is going to be ignoring that voice telling you that you are not enough, you're not doing enough, that you're failing. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to keep checking in with you on this because I've seen it so many times of people just like, you celebrate their lift and they're like, oh, well, I've done 200 pounds more than that. I'm like, cool, when I was 16.
Yeah.
Okay, you're 50 now? So, I mean, it's true though.
And if you're not watching this, Coach Rebecca is doing excessive eye rolling.
Well, okay, but this is the thing. You change by feeling good, not by feeling bad. And when you go in expecting that you're going to do the things that a 10 out of 10 motivation person is going to do, you end up feeling bad.
Yeah.
And it's just like, if you can go in with your eyes open thinking, hey, I'm going to make this as easy as possible, get the motivation to 3 or 4 out of 10 and build from there, right? Because it's like, I can sustain 4 out of 10 motivation. I cannot sustain 10 out of 10, right? So you get in 3 times a week, you celebrate every time you get in. Oh, hey, I lifted weights today. Great. And after 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, you're like, hey, maybe I'm ready to do 4 times a week.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't feel like a big step forward. Right. And that's just it. Now you're able to move from that 3 to 4 with that same kind of low motivation, but you start to see progress.
I have a great mindset exercise for people like that too. It's called the Billy Story. Maybe some other time.
I'm going to be on pins and needles. The Billy Story?
That's great.
Can't end with that.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll have to pick this one up next week.
Great.
Yeah. Are you? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be here next week.
Yeah. All right.
Part 2. Stay tuned.
We're gonna do part 2.
Part 2.
next week.
The Billy Story.
Rebecca's gonna bring the Billy story. Katie's gonna have about 5 pages of research and notes, and I'm gonna bring the actual book from the guy who invented fucking Instagram.
That's great. There's not one theory on behavior change.
And then we're gonna wrestle.
I like my chances. All right.
Good times.
We will shut it down there. Thanks for joining us. We will see you all next week. Bye. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, we've got plenty of others. Go check out this one over here.